Hey, what's going on here? We got a very special guest today. We have Dr. Ingrid Murra. She is a Harvard-trained orthodontist and the founder and CEO of the orthodontic startup upfront. Through her startup, her end mission is providing orthodontists with the tools to run modern, clearer aligner practices from unused office space at dental offices, while empowering dentists to delegate orthodontics to trained orthodontists at no upfront cost to them, while increasing their bottom line by 25% or more. Welcome. We're excited to have you here today, Ingrid. How are you doing?
Thank you. Super excited to be here. And that's definitely a mouthful. So we gotta shorten that pitch.
Yeah, I mean, you have accomplished a lot. So, Ingrid, where did your journey start? Like, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, I decided to become an orthodontist when I was 8 years old. So I think that's where it started. I personally had a really incredible experience where before orthodontics, I was really insecure about my smile as an 8-year-old. And I would literally look in the mirror before Google existed and ask Jeeves, what do I do to decrease the size of my mouth, essentially? Turns out I just wanted orthodontics. I just had teeth that were coming out of my mouth. So I started going through treatment. I went through 4 years of braces and basically emerged. I'm sure how most people, feel about braces, which is you take them off and you have this super slimy feeling on your teeth. Do you remember that?
Yes, I got braces in 7th grade. I was like, please have these off by high school. Otherwise, I'll never make it through.
Right. And so then I took my braces off and I realized, throughout the whole time kind of realized okay, this is what I've been wanting. I now have the confidence to actually smile when I want to smile. And it changed my life. It changed the way I perceived, the way I kind of interacted with the world, whether it was doing better in school or developing relationships with my teachers. I just had the confidence to go out and kind of smile and be my best self. So that's when my orthodontic journey started. Fast forward 20 years, and my passion for building a new way of doing orthodontics started when I was in residency. Should I go into that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, what I'm really interested in, so I don't know if everyone knows, but to be an orthodontist, you have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 4 years of college, 3 years of dental school, and then another 3 years of orthodontist school. Is that right?
4 years, 4 years, and 3 years. Yeah.
Wow. And so what was so you always wanted to go to the orthodontist path. Was there no question after the dentist school finished? It's like, hey, we're going for another 3.
Oh yeah. I was never going to be a dentist. I was always going to be an orthodontist. For me, it was all about kind of that smile transformation of moving your teeth into this beautiful position to give people the confidence that they need to smile, as opposed to the health of teeth, which, I went through dental school and I'm super interested in it, but I was always kind of coming in it from an orthodontic perspective.
Gotcha. And then getting into Harvard is no small feat. Was that difficult to get into, or it was just part of the process?
It's part of the process of becoming an orthodontist. To become an orthodontist, typically speaking, you've got to be top 5 to 10% of your dental school class. It's one of the most competitive specialties coming out of dental school. So no matter what, you're gunning for it all of dental school. You're just trying to make A's the whole time, trying to do the research, all that stuff. And then when it comes to residency programs, yeah, I either wanted to go to Harvard or UCLA. And so I was always aiming for one of those two, but it is match. Just like medical school, where you basically match into a program as opposed to hand selecting. So I got lucky and I got into one of the 2 programs that I wanted to get into.
Congratulations. And then as you're going through it, you would think after all of this difficulty of we got to get top 10% of the dentist school, got to get into the orthodontist school, got to get into a school I like, and then you'd want to be an orthodontist, right? So what ended up happening?
Yeah, so that's where the really interesting part comes in, which is I started residency when Smile Direct Club launched. Before this, I didn't really ever know business outside of private practice business. my parents are physicians, so I had always kind of seen how a private practice was run, but I didn't really know anything outside, right? Like marketing, like anything like
Yeah.
that. So when Smile Direct Club launched, it was the first time that, I had spent the past 20 years of my life trying to become an orthodontist. Here I am, got to my residency, first year, so excited. And I'm seeing these advertisements on buses in Boston, straighten your teeth in the mail, no orthodontist needed, $89 a month. And I was like, oh my God, like, is this the Industrial Revolution? Like, are we being replaced? What's happening here?
Yeah.
Long story short, after the first 6 months of residency, I learned that to straighten your teeth with clear aligners still necessitates an orthodontist. It doesn't matter how simple your case is or you think your case is. You need an orthodontist to make sure that the health of your teeth, when you're actually moving them, is your teeth are healthy. You also need an orthodontist to actually get results with clear aligners, because moving teeth, I think one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that there's an algorithm that's straightening your teeth. And there's actually no algorithm. It's a person who's prescribing how to move your teeth. And what happens with these mail order liner companies is, instead of a doctor prescribing typically how to move your teeth digitally through Invisalign, what's called the ClinCheck, what happens is technicians are prescribing how to move your teeth. Technicians either in Eastern Europe or in Costa Rica. So as opposed to an Invisalign, where either a dentist or an orthodontist is prescribing the treatment plan and basically telling these technicians how to move the STL files, with mail order liner companies, the fate of how your teeth are being moved with clear aligners is dictated by those technicians. Does that make sense?
So does that mean it's more of the mail order, like, and that's like mailing in the order? That like more of a one size fits all, and then the dentist is kind of one-to-one, or am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, and by the way, this is a super confusing area of healthcare. Sometimes I tell people it's a little bit like of the financial crisis, in the sense that there's a lot of players in the space. No one knows what's going on really, like besides orthodontists. A lot of times, like when we partner with new dental offices, we still have to explain how mail order liner companies work. So I just want to put that out there. It's very confusing. So the way it works, if we just zoom back out, how do you straighten your teeth? You used to go to your orthodontist and you straighten your teeth with metal braces, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that whole process, you put braces on your teeth, wires actually move your teeth, right? The way that orthodontics has evolved in 2022 is now, if you go to an orthodontist, we can typically straighten most people's teeth with clear aligners. And it's a 3-step process. The first step is you take a 3D scan of your teeth to get that digital file of what your teeth actually look like. We then submit that to a clear aligner technology company like Invisalign. Once we submit it, basically there's technicians normally that are like in Eastern Europe or Costa Rica who are actually segmenting your teeth so that we can actually move your teeth. Now the orthodontist goes in, and this is where the real crux of orthodontics work happens. Orthodontists are actually prescribing your digital treatment plan and moving your teeth into that ultimate position so that you get that smile that you're looking for. The third step is you 3D print those clear aligners based on the treatment plan from step 2. So the difference between mail order liner companies and going to an orthodontist is there's no doctor. There's a lot of differences, but the biggest difference is there's no orthodontist who's actually prescribing your digital tooth movement in step 2. So a technician who doesn't have any training in tooth movement is prescribing that, and the aligners are being 3D printed based on that technician's treatment. So ultimately what that means is most likely the aligners aren't going to move your teeth into the right place because there's no biomechanics applied to it, which is how you actually move teeth. And I think that's the biggest difference. That's, I think, the easiest to understand.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Did retainers go, so they're just kind of a way of the past now? Or do people?
No. Teeth move forever. So like you always need a retainer. So after you move your teeth, whether it's with braces or clear aligners, because you have muscles in your mouth and your tongue and the sides of your cheek, because you have saliva that has ions in it that will also move your teeth, you always have to wear retainers each and every night to retain that position. And most people don't realize that, which is why a lot of people nowadays, I think I saw recently that the average adult who's interested in straightening their teeth goes through orthodontics 3 times.
Wow. Oh, just because that retainer issue is not presented on there. And what is the cost difference on these? Like if they were to go through a regular orthodontist first, one of these mail-in, that what's the difference in the price? Because I I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, totally. So basically, most mail order liner companies are $2,000 in total, because there's no doctors involved. And so basically, what you're paying for is like the actual cost of the aligners and the customer service. When you go to an orthodontist, we use typically, most people use Invisalign as the product to move your teeth if they're going to use a clear liner product over braces. So the way it works is Invisalign charges providers a $2,000 lab fee. And
Yeah.
then basically orthodontists can charge, whatever they want, depending on their, so many things, right? Like the way doctors price depends on location, depends on, a lot of
Where
different
they are,
factors,
yeah.
overhead. Yeah, exactly. And so you can find it for as cheap as 5,000. And, back when I was practicing in New York, there's some orthodontists who charge upwards of 18,000. So very big price discrepancy in terms of like what you're getting. But to get high quality care when you're moving your teeth, the nuts and bolts of it are you need an orthodontist who knows how to move teeth in order to get the most efficient tooth movement. So you don't want to be in aligners for 18 months if you could be in aligners for 6 months, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if that's the case, what orthodontists are really specialists in is actually figuring out how to move teeth as quickly as possible, to get you out of treatment as quickly as possible. So that's the biggest reason. There's a lot of dentists out there who are doing Invisalign, and they can be treated really well by dentists. I think one of the biggest advantages of working with an orthodontist is speed and results.
Oh, wow. So they can do it. So you're telling me that you go to the orthodontist, it's going to be a significantly better process and it will be done faster. It will cost a little bit more, but it's kind of like you trying to do your own plumbing. Like you get a plumber.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'll tell you, like we recently moved into a new house and we tried to do our own backyard. Not a good idea. We learned the hard way. You hire someone to figure out how to do this. There's all these articles about like I think I read one about a kid in Toronto who 3D printed his own aligners. Moving teeth is not easy. So I never recommend that people try to move teeth on their own. And I should actually take that step back. Moving a tooth is actually fairly easy in the sense that all it is like putting a force on your tooth and then it can move. But what most people don't realize is that 2/3 of your tooth is the root, which is in the bone. And so you're not just trying to move the tooth, you're actually trying to move the entire root. And to do that generally requires these things called attachments. So just like with braces, where you had brackets and wires,
Yeah.
one of the big reasons that mail order liner companies don't work is because you need both the aligner and that attachment, which is, think of it like a clear button on your tooth. And so the clear aligner is using that button to move your entire tooth, not just the crown of your tooth. And the reason why is because you want your teeth to be stable. You want it there forever.
Wow. So that's a big difference. I would think,
Yeah,
because even if it looks like it's correct, but the root isn't there, then it's still going to regress back to the old place.
exactly. So, sometimes if you go to look at mail order liner companies and your teeth will move in the right direction, but a couple months later, you don't actually have those results. If you look at the FAQs, they'll say like, oh, you didn't wear your retainers, but that's not always the case because retainers can only keep your teeth in place if the root is also moved into the same place.
Oh, so it's really the key is the root. Got you. Got you. This
Yeah.
is fascinating. This is fascinating.
It's very technical. I'm sure this is like one of the more technical interviews you had.
I mean, we've done a couple of different stuff. We've had people with NFTs, and some other stuff, but it's really just a learning process of really getting into the nuts and bolts of what this is. And for you, so you graduate orthodontal school at Harvard, and what happens? You have this whole, because you got to make some money. Like you got to pay off you had loans, right? You got to pay off the loans.
Yeah. And people always ask me like what motivates me. It's
Yeah.
really two things. It's helping people get the confidence that they're looking for when it comes to straightening your teeth. But my bigger mission is really like where I landed after residency, which is there are all these healthcare providers that are kind of sold the dream of like, you work really hard, you go through 11 years of school, like you said, 4 years of dental school, 4 years of residency, college. And then afterwards, orthodontists are now graduating with between $500,000 to $1 million of student debt. So what this means is that they graduate and on a monthly basis, they have between $5,000 to $6,000 of monthly student loans. And they're actually in programs where, because they're in so much debt, it's not to be morbid, but like they're going to die in debt. Like there's no getting out of debt once you're $500,000 to $1 million in student debt. And you're making as an orthodontist, nowhere near that amount to pay it off. Now, orthodontists, because the demand for orthodontics has grown exponentially, like the beauty of what Smile Direct Club and Invisalign and like all these amazing companies have done with their amazing marketing is they've really kind of expanded the awareness of people who now realize that you can straighten your teeth with clear aligners. So now 1 in 2 people in the country in the world actually are looking to straighten their teeth, but they don't know who to turn to. And orthodontists are so in debt, and people don't really know that you still need an orthodontist. So they're not starting practices anymore. So what I set out to do when we graduated is figure out how to empower orthodontists to build virtual practices without having to take on additional debt. And the way that we're solving for this, what upfront is we are a platform to empower orthodontists to build virtual practices. So what this means is we give them a suite of tools and services where they can go into 20 dental offices near them once a month per dental office, and they can treat the patient in the dental office and have the entire suite of tools to actually provide the patients with really high quality care, from seamless scheduling to insurance collection to payment plans. We have 36-month payment plans here at upfront, to virtual checkups so that these orthodontists can deliver the highest quality, most modern care. Because you as a patient, we're all busy nowadays. You don't want to go to your orthodontist once a month the way you did as a kid, right?
Yeah.
So the way we solve for that is with these modern checkup tools. So you don't actually have to go in every single month. As long as you're wearing your aligners, you submit your photos of your aligners to your orthodontist checks them, make sure that they're fitting, and you're on track, and they can manage this practice from 20 dental offices near them. Now, this tool is free to orthodontists. So we basically give it to them as a way to actually empower them to build practices, again, without taking on more debt.
Yeah. Wow. That is absolutely incredible. First of all, the fact that you had the foresight, this was prior to COVID, correct?
Yeah.
so, so I feel like COVID helped. Like COVID was like, they're already virtual. It's all good.
COVID definitely helped. Yeah.
That's fascinating. And then the fact that you found this niche where these orthodontists needed this, the people don't have to spend their time driving an hour to the orthodontist, not an hour, but maybe it's 15 minutes, but you're still waiting an hour. It's still in the middle of the day. Now we can just send pictures. That's phenomenal. And then the orthodontist can cover 20 different dentist office. This sounds like it's game changer.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, we realize that we're solving a pain point for all 3 people, because when it comes to your teeth, who do you trust the most? It's probably your dentist, right?
Yeah.
So we go to these dentists and we're like, hey, like you can treat your very easy cases with Invisalign, right? But you have all these other patients that are looking to straighten their teeth. So we make it easy for you to deliver this expert-led orthodontist care, stay completely off their hands so that they can actually have passive revenue and treat the demand that they have essentially for providing their space.
Oh, so does the dentist get a referral on it, or they get a piece of it, right?
You get a piece of it, yeah.
Wow. And then the orthodontist will come in if they have to do the actual work.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. So because with clear aligners, to get results, you really have to have attachments in your teeth, because we say that attachments are the better half of clear liners, because your teeth are slippery, right? So let's say you have a tooth that's like pushed in. How is the clear liner going to pull that tooth out without a handle?
Okay.
Or how are we going to move the root without a handle? So that's why you need attachments. Like attachments are the way to actually, it's called biomechanics is the foundation of how we move teeth. And it always requires the interaction of two different things with the tooth. And so the orthodontist goes in 1 day a month. They see patients for a consultation, and then they help place the attachments on the teeth with a supervision, by a dental assistant, but under the supervision of an orthodontist. And for any in-person needs that you need, sometimes there's some teeth contouring that needs to happen with, like, for example, if you have really crowded teeth, sometimes you need to do a little bit of that teeth contouring to make room to straighten them, for example. So any in-person needs that you need would be seen from your dental office. So, and your orthodontist will meet you at your dental office. So we say it's a hybrid model with 90% of virtual visits.
But it doesn't change. But for the consumer who's the regular person, they're still going to their dentist office. They don't have to go to a new teeth person. They know their teeth got. And it's
Exactly. Because everything should happen from one place, right? Like, why are you going to all these different specialists? There's no real transparency and quality of care. So we're bringing that expert right to dental offices so that patients can get exactly what they're looking for.
No, you're spot on. And the best part is that they actually work together as a team instead of the coinciding, and it doesn't make sense. And that's really interesting. So how do you come up with it? Like I understand that you were you must have been kind of concerned about the debt and everything going, it must have been an interesting I'm just very curious about that. Cause what gave you the confidence to go, I'm making this, let's do something.
Yeah, I think when I first graduated, I was always entrepreneurial, and most orthodontists are. Like most orthodontists, what your general path is, you work for someone for a couple of years, and then you'll probably buy out their practice and then basically build your name on top of that practice. Now, the problem is that most practices are braces focused. Two problems. One is most practices are braces focused, when younger orthodontists can do everything with Invisalign and clear liners. So you're buying a practice that isn't really up to speed with what's modern nowadays. The second thing is that orthodontists are not retiring the way they used to. So there's fewer opportunities for orthodontists in terms of having their own practice. And so I really realized, wow, here are thousands of people in the country, in the world, who are really looking to open up their own practice, and there's no way to do it. Because dentists aren't referring as much anymore now that they're doing their own Invisalign. They're in debt. Older orthodontists aren't selling their practices, and then patients are being told that they don't need orthodontists anymore. So it's harder than ever to market to patients. So I basically realized there has to be a way, just like Shopify, where orthodontists can build their own brands, build their own practice without taking on additional debt and going to the person that they know the patient trusts, which is their dentist. And so that's how it initially started. Actually, it started, the idea came to me the first time that I got COVID, just lying in bed. And I was like, wait, this makes sense. We tested it last year. We raised our second round of funding at the very end of last year. And now we're hitting the ground running.
Incredible. And how did you go about this? Because it was $5 million, right? That's an impressive amount to fundraise. How was the approach there? Because I know that's a long process, a lot of due diligence, a lot of pieces to that. So I just want to ask quickly.
Yeah, fundraising is the whole thing. I think one of the biggest things that I learned is that to properly fundraise, it's 95% preparation and then 5% execution in terms of actually taking the meetings. Because every investor really asks you the same set of questions, and those questions are all out there. There's some incredible blogs out there on what investors ask you. I think my favorite ones that were most useful to me were First Round Capital and then NFX. And you basically just spend the time preparing these questions. And what's so amazing about it is if you haven't figured out the answers, you should figure out the answers to these questions. How are you going to scale? What's your marketing cost? All these things are things that you can test, beforehand with small tests. And once you have the answers to all these questions, it's the deck process is not fun in terms of just constantly iterating a deck, especially if you're not like someone like me. Like I had no idea how to put together a deck. So it took me a long time to be like, all right, here's how you tell a cohesive story with like a Google Slides presentation. But I think I just asked a bunch of friends who were like in consulting, like, hey, does this make sense? And just continue to iterate for a couple of months until the story started to make sense to non-dental people.
Yeah. And is this, was that something that you've done 2 raises, right?
Yeah. So I raised our pre-seed round at the very end of 2019. We were testing a business model similar to One Medical. We got the founder of One Medical to be one of our very first investors.
Oh, wow.
And so we were going to take a very similar approach, which is, open up brick and mortar orthodontic facilities with a beautiful experience. We're going to have very transparent, payment plans. We're going to have a great digital experience. We're going to hire the best orthodontists, and we're going to expand via brick and mortar. We realized very quickly, first of all, the pandemic happened, which like threw a total wrench in our plans. But we realized like 3 big things, which is, first of all, it's very expensive to build clinics. If you want to build a nice clinic, it's a lot of money where, we didn't want to spend so much money on the actual brick and mortar space when 90% of patient visits can be virtual. And so the real experience is digital. The second thing that we realized is that marketing costs, when you're marketing against like companies that are offering the cheapest thing on the planet, it's very difficult because at the end of the day, the lowest cost wins on the internet. And so when you have doctors, you're never going to compete against a product that has eliminated the doctor. So we are finding that marketing was really, really expensive. But then the third thing that we found that money can't solve for is the fact that orthodontists want to be independent. They don't want to be employed. Even with all the student debt, we want to empower them to be small business owners. That's why we go to school for 11 years of higher education. And so we transitioned to a platform to empower orthodontists because we're solving the core need of what they're looking for.
Wow. This is awesome. This is so cool because I feel like it's really helping so many different people, and it's much more beyond than just yourself. And you're out here helping all of these orthodontists, probably classmates of yours are hopping on this program, I would imagine, and just a bunch of different people, and you're really changing lives in that way. That's awesome.
We're still at the very beginning. We're in 10 offices in LA right now, which is really, really exciting. We have some incredible dentists and orthodontists who, to your point, are all now our friends. And like, it's been such an incredible thing to build together. I do hope to be on the East Coast by next summer. So I can start helping out some of our friends from residency.
Yeah, because I feel like this is going to become like a saving grace, because I feel like if you go and talk with some of the people from your residency, I can guarantee you that some people are having a tough time, even though they went to Harvard and even though they did everything right, it's still not good enough sometimes. But I think what you're here to do is really save them in some capacity, like really throw out this cool idea.
Hopefully it helps. We have to figure out the operations behind it. But yeah, we're really looking to help all 3 customers. It's patients, dentists, and orthodontists, because dentists are getting asked every single day, do you provide Invisalign? And so it's very hard for dentists to see a lot of, first of all, not be able to provide that treatment in-house and see a lot of patients walk out of the door. And so we're really helping them serve their patients as well.
Awesome. Thank you. This is cool. So I know your time is running. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with in regard to what action steps should they take? And then we'll obviously grab all your information, but what action steps should the audience take if they're interested in getting involved in this? What's the steps? What do they do?
Email or call me. You can email me at ingrid@my2front.com. Call me at 713-264-2008. I'm always, wanting to talk to dentists, orthodontists, or patients who have, questions, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'll definitely put that on the show notes, and because it's not even that; it's more of a basis of learning. Like you're out here sharing this knowledge, and a lot of people don't have the proper knowledge. So I think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I practiced in New York for a year and a half, and a lot of the patients I saw were patients who had already gone through mail order liner companies, and it's super heartbreaking, to see a patient who spent a couple $1,000s, didn't get results, went through like the embarrassment of wearing aligners. So I'm definitely super passionate about getting in front of patients before they make that decision, at least giving them all the information of how clear aligners work, what they should be looking for. And orthodontics, we're a very small community. So even if they're not in LA, happy to refer them to any orthodontist that I know.
Yeah, absolutely. And since Ingrid said it's 1 out of every 2 people, I'd imagine that someone's considering it. So they should reach out to Ingrid, because this is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Is there,
thank you so
um,
much for having me on here. This has been awesome.
yeah, and so we got the email, we got the phone number. Is there anywhere else that they can look up about your company, about what you're doing?
Yeah. You can always visit our website. It's www.mytwofriends.com, or you can visit our Instagram at mytwofriends.
Awesome. Thank you, Ingrid. I really appreciate the time and a lot of knowledge. This was amazing.
I hope it
Thank
was
you.
helpful.
It
Thanks a
was.
lot.
It was. I appreciate it.